The most disturbing cases of FBI agents, the case of the Long Island Killer. I still remember the first reports that came through the news channels. It was 2010. I was in New York when the police began tracking an unknown killer. What first looked like random missing persons quickly turned into a nightmare. The bodies of at least 10 women were found along a lonely stretch of road on Long Island. All of them sex workers who had answered online ads. No one suspected that the first body would mark the beginning of something far more terrifying. The so-called Long Island Killer had a pattern. He left his victims near Gilgo Beach on Ocean Parkway. Their placement showed chilling precision, cold, calculated. What made the case so disturbing wasn't just the cruelty, it was the silence. The fact that he remained invisible. The police followed lead after lead, but nothing stuck. No one knew who he was or why he chose them. It was like he knew exactly how to disappear. In 2011, things escalated. More bodies were found during a search. Women, different names, same killer. The profile became clear. A methodical, intelligent, deeply disturbed individual. Even with intense investigations and public appeals, the case remained open. To this day, no one knows who the Long Island Killer really was. Just a name in the dark, a ghost in the files of the FBI. When I first heard about a particularly disturbing case that shook the residents of Oklahoma City, in a quiet neighborhood far from the big city, a series of murders began, initially dismissed as random incidents, but soon it became clear. A sinister serial killer was on the loose. He was known only as the Dancing Man. The police noticed he always found his victims at the same time, on the same streets. But what made him terrifying was what he did after each murder. He danced, just for a few seconds, as if congratulating himself. Witnesses described him as alone, calm, moving like someone possessed. It took months to link the murders. 8 women, all victims of the same man. He struck in different locations. And every time, he used a new tactic to escape. No fingerprints, no DNA, not a single solid witness. But one night, the police found something. A surveillance camera had captured a blurry figure in motion, the dancing man, but the image was so poor it only deepened the mystery. Over time, he vanished. The murders stopped. The case went cold. Some say he died. Others believe he simply moved on to another city. No one knows for sure, but his name still echoes in the memories of those who remember the terror. The Dancing Man, a nightmare buried deep and within the FBI's darkest files. The case of the Grim Reaper, the shadow in the city. Texas, 1980s. I was still young when I joined the FBI, and the case that really disturbed me was the case of the Grim Reaper, an unknown killer who went on a murderous rampage through the cities of Texas in the 1980s. What set this case apart from others was the brutality of the crimes and the chilling lack of pattern. It all began with the disappearance of a young man named Jason Thornton, Houston, 1984. Jason was an unremarkable guy, a student, quiet, never in trouble. But one evening, after a normal night with friends, he simply stopped calling back. No one knew where he was until weeks later, when his lifeless body was found in a wooded area. What the police discovered next shocked the entire city. Jason's death was only the first. Over the next 2 years, at least 5 more victims appeared. All young men, all middle class, all stabbed, brutally, then dumped in deserted areas as if they had vanished from reality. But the most disturbing detail, the killer's trademark. After the murders, each victim wore a black mask. A mask like the Grim Reaper. It was a symbol, macabre, cold, as if death itself had come for them. No witnesses, no real clues, just the masks and a killer who moved like a shadow. I remember how we worked the case for months. He was careful, skilled. He left almost nothing behind. No fingerprints, no DNA. Eventually, we discovered the victims weren't random. Each was linked to a location or a group. It was as if he had a list of people he wanted to erase out of some deep, twisted rage. Then, in 1986, we got him by accident, a random event. His name, Darren Matthews, a former cop, dismissed for corruption. His hatred for the system turned him into something else, something dark. What shocked me the most was knowing this man once wore a badge, and yet he spent years bringing terror from behind a mask of justice. The case of the Grim Reaper will never leave me because we never truly understood why he did it or what kind of pain could create something so cruel. It was 1994, and I remember vividly how my partner and I were going through the dusty files of a particularly creepy and secret case. We referred to it as the Watchman Killer. The case was unusual because the perpetrator was never actually seen. No evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, just bodies, and a disturbing pattern that made no sense. It all began with the murder of a night watchman in an old factory in rural Indiana. The guard, a quiet man, was making his rounds when he was brutally stabbed to death. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. The killer had forced him to perform rituals before his death, and afterward, he was posed, like a part of some dark occult display. Weeks later, another victim, another night watchman, was found in an abandoned shopping center. Same pattern, brutal murder, ritualistic posing, and that strange symbol, a circle with a cross inside, etched again and again into the walls. It felt like a message, but one we couldn't understand. We chased shadows, dead ends, false leads. It felt like this killer had supernatural awareness, always one step ahead, always watching, and always invisible. Our suspicion grew that the killer was an insider, someone who knew these places, someone who knew how night watchmen worked. But no matter how hard we looked, we couldn't find the right suspect. The security systems? He bypassed them with ease. We were left in the dark. Nearly a year passed before a single mistake cracked the case. At one of the latest scenes, he left behind a trace, barely visible, a unique chemical compound, a rare type of paint. Through forensic work, we traced it to one company, a manufacturer of specialized security equipment. That's how we found him. His name was Gary Thompson, a former security consultant. He had once helped design the very systems he now enjoyed breaking. And his motive? A psychotic urge, a desire to perform what he called retrospective rituals. He returned again and again to scenes of past order, to destroy them. What haunted me most wasn't just the brutality, it was the powerlessness. He was like a shadow, always just out of reach, just outside the frame, and I sometimes wonder, was he ever watching us, right under our noses? Early 2000s. It all started with a series of deaths. At first, they seemed unrelated. Babies, found lifeless in their cribs after falling asleep. Tragic? Yes, but not unusual. People assumed it was SIDS or freak accidents. But then, the pattern emerged. It began with a 6-month-old girl named Emily. Her mother said it was a quiet night. She fed her baby, put her down, and went to bed. But then, she heard something. A lullaby, a soft, gentle voice singing near the nursery. When she checked, her baby was dead. No forced entry, no signs of abuse, just silence. Then it happened again and again. Different towns, different families, but always the same eerie detail. A mysterious song heard before the child died. It was like an invisible killer moved through the homes, unnoticed, leaving nothing but grief behind. Eventually, one of our analysts made a chilling discovery. The lyrics reported by grieving parents matched an old lullaby from the 1950s, a song that hadn't been broadcast in decades. But why that song? What was its connection to these deaths? Through painstaking investigation, we uncovered something far darker. The killer was a man involved in a secret network of so-called lifesavers. But what he did was anything but saving lives. He used music to hypnotize parents, to lull them into a suggestive, sleepy state. Then, under that trance, he administered drugs to their babies, quietly, invisibly. His name was Leonard Granger, a licensed music therapist. To the public, he helped children with sleep disorders, but in reality, he was experimenting on them, killing them, to study how acoustic frequencies affect the brain under stress. He didn't kill with knives or guns, he killed with music, with a lullaby that whispered children into their final sleep. What haunted me most was not the death itself, but the method. The way he turned something so gentle, so innocent, into a weapon. A song that should bring comfort became the sound of death. He shattered the trust between parent and world. He took the safest place on earth, a crib, a lullaby, and turned it into a grave. It drove me insane. A string of quiet, eerie murders. Middle-aged women killed in their homes. No sign of struggle, no motive, no forced entry. The scenes were too clean, too careful. We kept digging, and what we found chilled me to my core. The killer had been watching them for months. The first victim was Jessica Reynolds. She lived in a quiet suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina, found dead in her living room. No trauma, no bruises, just gone. But there was something odd. A mirror. Large, antique, out of place, newly polished, almost proud-looking. On the back, we found a faint, almost invisible mark. Something that didn't belong. We didn't know it then, but that mirror would be the thread that unraveled everything. Months later, 2 more women died. Same profile, same lack of clues. And again, each of them had a mirror like Jessica's. We started comparing the mirrors. That's when we saw it. They weren't just mirrors. They were eyes. The killer had hidden micro cameras inside them. Miniature, sophisticated, nearly invisible. He was studying them. Every routine, every fear, every private moment, he stalked them. Like prey. From the safety of reflection. Our break came from a security cam at a nearby hardware store. A man kept showing up. Always close to where the victims lived, but never in full view. Always lurking. We traced him back. His name was Darren Pritchard, former technician fired from a surveillance company for unauthorized modifications. Turned out, those modifications were part of something darker. He wasn't just watching. He believed he was controlling them, manipulating their lives, guiding their fate from behind the glass. He turned comfort into paranoia. safety into exposure, a simple mirror into a trap. To this day, what haunts me most isn't how he killed. It's that we never saw him coming. He was always watching, and we never watched back.